This is the Bristol Flyers podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Bristol Flyers podcast. We are powered by Matchday Live. I'm Joel Osborne. He is Sam Hardy. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jolie. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How is your first week in your new job? You no longer work for us.
I know. They can take away my pass, I said to you earlier, because I can't get into the building anymore, but they cannot take away my freedom from being here, which is not that happy because I had a lovely time here, but my new job is blimmin' beautiful, Jolie.
I was going to say, you're now working. We can talk about this, can't we?
Yeah, of course we can.
We are now working at our principal partner, our front of shirt sponsor for Bristol Flyers, Watches the Bath Competitions.
Well, it's Watches the Bath is my email address, but WOB Competitions, they got other stuff going on as well. I had my first day Monday in Bath, so I got the nice train across, little walk up to their offices, and then I played a basketball game on Monday night, Jolie, and I did my back in, and I came to work the next day, which was Tuesday, and I ended up lying on the floor of the brand new offices, looking like an absolute moron because I couldn't sit up straight.
Oh my goodness.
So if you see me, I'm still in pain. If you see me squirming around in this episode, honestly, we have this interview, we have the news going on, and I'm moving around like a little rotter because my back hurts. So
yeah. Well, it's good to have you with us as always.
Thank you.
We can't get rid of you just yet, even though you have left your role at Bristol Sport. Of course, you're not working here now. We actually had to let you in the studio today because you haven't got a staff pass anymore.
I know. That's it, mate. And I was there was armed guards to make sure I didn't steal anything, all sorts. So
yeah. Did you pay for parking today at Ashton Gate?
do you know what? I haven't, and I need to check whether they've taken my car off of the register or not.
They will have.
They won't have.
They will have.
Do you reckon they will?
You don't even go here.
You don't even go here. I'll double check that one with an ex-colleague. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, great.
Jolie, you had your birthday on Sunday.
I did. Yes, it was my birthday.
You're now 21 years old.
21, aka 33. But yes, it was my birthday on Monday. Birthday was on Monday, but I celebrated on Sunday because we are in the midst of 4 games in 8 days right now, so not much time to celebrate. Because, of course, we are coming off the back of an NBL win on Tuesday, last night, which is Tuesday. That is correct. It's because the 11:30 a.m. has completely thrown me off. But in honour of our first NBL win of the season, I've got a little gift from Vinted.
Let's have a little look, Jolie.
Because on Vinted, I was just scrolling, as you do.
Scrolling on Vinted, as you do.
They call me Scroll Osborne. And I came across quite an interesting item of clothing. We love Ian Beale, we love the ENBL, and we love the meme. And of course, off the back of our little podcast joke, I went and got a new t-shirt from Vinted, which is the Ian Beale t-shirt.
Right, you got to get that on right now.
I've got on right now?
Yeah, you put that t-shirt on, mate. Wear it for the rest of the intro.
There you go.
Producer Dan is with us now. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just mesmerised by that.
They are great. I thought on Vinted, and I thought it's like £7 or something. I thought I'd pick it up, and it'll probably come out again later in the season. Maybe Estonia. I'm thinking Gator Coolbet away. What do you reckon?
Do you reckon the guys who run the ENBL would be sad if on the next broadcast at home you were wearing that shirt instead of something a bit smarter?
What, in the studios, wear a jacket on top of this?
Yeah.
I think it'd be good. I can get away with it, I reckon.
We'll call Asma and ask her, shall we?
Yeah, let's see. I think the answer will be no. Coming up on this week's show, we've got a busy show for you this week because we've got lots to talk through. Of course, we've got the win over Surrey, 89ers, which was last Saturday. We'll talk about the game against Brno. And because the team are flying back from Czechia right now, we don't have a player guest in studio. So we thought it would be great to do another one of our 20th anniversary specials. And boy, is this a good chat, because we are joined by none other than Dwayne Lautier-Ogunleye to talk about the early period of BBL, his journey as a 16-year-old coming to the SGS Basketball Academy, getting the opportunity to play for the Flyers first team in National League Division 1. Then we talk about the transition into the BBL era and, of course, his first season with the Bristol Flyers in the BBL, which then saw him progress and get that scholarship at Bradley University.
Let's do it.
Here is our chat with D'Lo in our latest 20th anniversary special.
This is the Bristol Flyers podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Bristol Flyers podcast, powered by Matchday Live, for our latest 20th anniversary special. And we are very pleased to be joined by none other than Dwayne Lautier-Ogunleye. Dwayne, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Joel.
Did I get it right? Is that the pronunciation? Did I get it right? Is that?
Yeah, you said it right, but we can stick to Dilo.
D'Lo. We'll stick with D'Lo. Thank you so much for taking time out your busy schedule to join us on the Flyers podcast. I know you've been watching the Flyers from afar this season, right?
Yeah, I've been watching. I know the guys just won their European game last night, so it's been pretty cool to see from afar what's been going on.
Give us a rundown of your playing career so far since leaving the Flyers.
So I did my rookie year in Italy. So I played for Bergamo. That was a wonderful experience, but COVID ended up happening that season, so it cut it a little bit short. Second season, went over to France, and I played Pro B for Poitiers. So that was a really cool experience because my mom is French, so getting to play in France, speak the language, play in a league that I wanted to. It sucked that we had no fans because of COVID, but it was a wonderful experience. And then my third year went back to Italy. I played the first half of the season for a team called Udine as an injury replacement player. And then I finished off the season in Netherlands with Den Bosch, which was cool because I got to win a Dutch championship out there. Following year, so my fourth year now, went to Austria. So that was pretty cool because I wanted to go there because we got to play Europe. We got to play in the European competition. So I played FIBA Europe Cup and we won the league, the playoffs, the cup, and the Super Cup. So that was pretty wicked, winning everything that we had on the season. And then last season, I signed in Iceland, so joined a team called Nardvik. And then for this season, I re-signed with them to stay there.
Yeah, I was going to say, those watching on YouTube may have noticed this already, but you are sporting an injury at the moment, right?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, I fractured my thumb and needed to get surgery. So had surgery last week, currently recovering right now. So should be back in about 2 to 3 months' time, so I can finish off the season and then be ready for the playoffs.
We wish you all the best with your road to recovery. I love how like learning more about players' stories after they leave Flyers, because like you look at the Basketball Academy program and how it's provided like a platform for players to kickstart their careers. First of all, by playing for the first team while doing your studies, and then moving on up into colleges and getting a pro career out of it. And obviously you've had this successful time with the GB national team as well, which Coach Kapoulas is obviously on the coaching staff for. So I imagine you and Coach Kapoulas are still very much talking, right? You're very much still in touch?
Oh, that's very fun. I mean, I was lucky enough to be involved with the GB 5 as soon as I graduated. So it was almost like a coming home moment. I got to look forward to all the camps because I'd catch up and see all my friends. But then also with Andreas being part of the assistants, it's just, I get to talk to him. I get to see him scheme. I get to almost make fun of him or how he does his film sessions because it's almost like a throwback of me when I'm in Flyers, listening to do the scout and the video and all that. So for me, it's just wonderful.
Because I remember last year, you mentioned about being in touch with Coach K still. I think, was it last year? I think I just ran into the Flyers office, and I think I just saw you in there. And I think it was at the time when we had Keely Johnson and T-John Lucas. They were both out injured. And am I right in thinking you sort of came back home just to get some reps in, get some training in, help our team go 5-on-5, because we literally had we were battered with injuries at that point. But because I remember you seeing you there, right? And you were just training with the guys.
Yeah, I came back, so it was just an opportunity for me to stay in shape and, well, catch up and see Andreas and really just reminisce and just be around a team and everything again. So for me, it was cool, and it was almost surreal walking through SGS and seeing how similar but different it is, and then seeing all the jerseys on the wall and all that stuff. That was a nice feeling because I hadn't been back to SGS probably since... I remember one of the playoffs when I was in college. I came back. I think it was the year we beat Newcastle in the quarterfinals because Roy was still playing. So I came back to watch the home leg of that, and then hadn't been back in maybe 5 or 6 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, because it's like you say, it has changed so much, but there are some things that are still very much the same. Like you can see the same volunteers, for example. I mean, I'm still working here. I was working here when Dwayne was 18 years old in the first season in the BBL.
You was on the UE team, I remember. So
I was, yeah. Sam and I both playing together for UE, weren't we?
Yeah.
And yeah, I sort of gave it up a long time ago. But obviously, I came out of SGS, and basketball gave me an opportunity to have a career outside of the the playing court, and so it just shows like how what the pathways coming out of. It doesn't have to be playing that the academy can provide opportunities for. It's people like there's roles on and off the court that need fulfilling.
Well, we weren't gonna. We'll make the same joke over and over, but you weren't gonna have a career playing, were you, Joel? Let's be honest.
Very much not. But I still can enjoy basketball, and I can still make content. So I've got a career out of it in the end. Dilo, that's great that you're still in touch with Coach Kapoulas. I love that. And I love that the club can still give you a place to play and a home to be in if you ever need opportunity to get some reps in and stay in shape as well. So that's a really good. I'm really happy that relationship is very much still there. Let's run it back to like when you first joined SGS Basketball Academy at the time, because I think it was like around 2012 or 2013. You're having that successful junior career in London. You're playing for the England national team at junior age groups. Talk us through that decision to want to play basketball at the SGS College Basketball Academy.
So at that time, I was going to Harrow High School in London. So I was playing for Coach Gary Maitland. And I'd wanted to go to prep school in America. That was something that we were kind of working towards, but it just wasn't something that my family could financially support at that time, just because going to America, staying with the host family, all that was pretty expensive. So made the decision that I wanted to stay in England, but I didn't want to play under 18s. I wanted to play men's. I thought that would probably be the best thing for my development. And there was two NBL one teams in London at the time. My local team, Westminster Warriors, and then Brixton Top Cats. So they just told me, like, look, you're 16, you're not going to have an opportunity to play for us, play your own age. Gary kind of agreed to, and then we kind of like looked into where I could go. So there was an opportunity for me to go to Medway. There was an opportunity for me to go to Manchester for the whole Loretto program. And then there was an opportunity to go to Bristol. But Bristol was the place that I was the most familiar with because at the time I played England under 16s and under 15s and under 16s for Andreas, so I already knew him. We used to do all the training camps in Bristol, so I was familiar with the facilities. And Gary and Andreas kind of worked out the framework to kind of make it happen, and he said, "Yeah, let's do this." I just said, "Okay."
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you remember some of those early conversations with Coach where he was like, where he actually offered you that opportunity to play with the first team in Div 1 back then?
I mean, he just answered all the questions that I wanted to, and he gave me a chance. He told me, "Look, you're gonna come here. You're gonna practice for the Division 1 team. You're gonna have an opportunity to play. I can't promise you anything, but if you earn it, I'll give it to you." And he was the only person that would really seem like he was going to give me a chance and believed in me. So for me, that was all I wanted and that's all I needed, and I kind of just ran with it.
And were there conversations at that point? Because I think you arrived, your first season in Div 1 was 2 years before the team stepped up into the then BBL. Was there conversations happening around then, around like Coach saying, "Yep, this is the direction that the club is going in. We want to eventually enter BBL. We're speaking with Bristol Sport around a takeover and moving into the top flight"?
I think those conversations started once I arrived. They weren't really a thing before I came. You used to hear rumors like, "Oh, we're going to try and get into the BBL. There's a plan in place." But kind of sometimes in British basketball, you kind of want to wait to see it actually happen rather than get too ahead of yourself. But for me at that time, BBL wasn't really a thought process. I just said, if I can play NBL D1, I can play against grown men that will get me better faster and get me to where I want to go.
And talk us through that D1 roster, because there was some quality players on that team. I mean, I've got in my notes here players like Enrique Garcia, Fran Robles, and then you get your likes of Greg Street and Doug McLaughlin-Williams, Jordan Ranklin as well. Who were some of your favourite players in that Div 1 era?
So when I first arrived, Fran hadn't been here yet, but it was definitely Greg and Enrique team. Doug was a big part. Roy was the point guard, so we actually developed a friendship just from going at each other every single day in practice. I remember my first practice with D1, I actually ripped his jersey and he ripped mine back, so it was very physical. But then one that people forget, so Mustafa Al-Faki, he's from like 2 minutes away from where I live in London, so that was really the guy that was kind of bridging the gap for me when I first arrived, because I'm the only London guy, he's the only other London guy, and it takes time for them to kind of understand me because I'm loud, I'm very expressive. I'm a 16-year-old guy trying to in essence, take minutes and a spot from one of these grown men that have established themselves. So he kind of helped it all piece together.
That's a name. You don't know how special that name is for us,
Legend,
because
legendary
he
guy.
was at UE with us. So
Yeah.
he joined our
Yeah.
UE basketball team, and Moss was like, he was pulling up. He was like our equivalent of what's his name in the NBA? He plays for Hornets.
Are you talking about LaMelo?
Yeah, he was like our version of LaMelo. Like, he was wild. He would do crazy things,
Yes.
and we were like, "Who is this guy? And why is he in our team?" And obviously, he was playing with you guys as well. But he was such a good dude, and I love that guy a lot.
Yeah. Are you still in touch with Mustafa today?
Yeah, I seen him a month ago because he actually has a shop, like shoes, coffee, clothing in Portobello Market.
Oh wow.
No
So
way.
it's a wicked place, Kicks Cafe. It's a really cool spot. So I go there to hang out.
We should reach out to him at some point.
Oh, 100%. I'll be so down for that. We 100% should. And then obviously you spent 2 seasons with the team in Div 1, and obviously you're playing. Was Ty Treasure a part of your time with the Flyers, or was he just after you joined, just before you
No,
joined?
so Ty was there when I started. It was tough because I mean I'm 16 going against him, and he was cooking me every day. But it was definitely a toughness that I was able to build to me. So he was around for maybe the first 2 months, and then that was when he unfortunately hurt himself and did his Achilles. So it was kind of a weird situation because him going out actually allowed me to get minutes because I was playing behind him. So it kind of allowed him to go at each other for 2 months, and then now I'm getting a role in the team and starting to build trust with Andreas as a result because it's kind of next man up.
We mentioned Ty a fair bit on here, and those other, the guys from that sort of era. But can you just let the listener know how much of a talent that guy really was, how athletic he was, and what he had going for him?
I mean, if people can remember how athletic Greg was, Ty was more athletic in my opinion, and it's weird because it was almost effortless. He was always smiling, was always happy, never really got mad, and he just almost had like a switch where he could just change speed, change direction, and he's just gone.
He was an athlete.
Yeah.
I remember because when I was at the academy, he was the year above me. So we'd often compete in training and stuff, and I'd just be like, "Oh my goodness, you can jump out of the gym." He was an incredible talent, and we actually managed to get him on court for Greg's testimonial. He played a little bit during Greg Street's testimonial game, and it was really good to catch up with him. And I'm really keen actually to get hold of him and try and get him on a future episode for one of our 20th anniversary specials. So
He ruptured his Achilles, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could have played a full season with him because we would have had some highlight plays on the Bristol Flyers TV and all that. But
yeah.
it was well, it's the sport sometimes.
And then obviously, because then as a result, you're getting these more minutes and stuff, and then you go into that your second year, which is the last year that Flyers were in NBL Division 1, and then this was when this is quite a bit that I remember because I just graduated from university. I was sort of helping out Coach Kapoulas, volunteering with the team, starting a YouTube channel up and getting highlights out there and stuff like that. And I did a few games, and I think that was the year also, Dwayne, that Flyers, they got the invite to play in the BBL Trophy because it was the year before the Flyers were actually going to enter BBL, and I think we announced the move in 2013 that we were going to be playing from the 2014-15 season in the top flight, and we got that invite to play in the BBL Trophy in the season before, and we played against Surrey United, didn't we?
Yeah, I remember that. We cooked them. We got a win. So I think being the BBL team as a Division 1 team, we're really happy.
Yeah, I remember on that team they had a young LVC Dusha on that team,
Did they?
and
Yeah.
they were quite. I mean, they weren't doing too well in the BBL at the time, but I think that was the moment, Dwayne, where I was like, okay, right, we're ready now to make that step up into BBL, right?
I think it just gave us a lot of confidence because we were like, okay, we know it's going to be a jump next year. But we played against a team, we've competed, we don't really have anything more than a core group of guys, and then Doug, an import that you can count it, but he'd been around with the Flyers team already for maybe 3-4 years, so it was really just a cool little core, and I think it laid down the foundation because I don't want to get too ahead of stuff, but when we did get to the BBL, it was mostly a lot of success from us knowing each other, playing the same way, playing for Andreas for that many years, and then adding extra pieces.
Yeah. The final score in that game, by the way, 81-75 to the Flyers. Dwayne, I think you were like 17 at this point, and you actually led the way in that game. 19 points and 6 rebounds. 8 rebounds. 19 points and 8 rebounds you had in that game. Was that like a bit of a milestone achievement for you where you're like, wait a minute, I can actually compete with other players in this top flight in the BBL? I'm ready to make that step up with the team now?
If I'm being honest, at that time, I already believed it. I think it was just more so allowing other people to see what Andreas believed in me, Gary had believed in me, and what I thought of myself. Because I just said, if I can do this here, I can do this in the BBL. And I had a dream of one day going to America to play Division One basketball. So that was kind of what I thought I needed to do in order to allow it to happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's get on to that that BBL era, because then it's like 14-15. This is the Flyers' first season in the British Basketball League. The club had just secured financial backing from Bristol Sport. At this point, the club was still very much an amateur sort of semi-professional team, wasn't it? Because you have two or three, you get like 3 import players, I think it was at the time. Half the guys were unpaid professionals, half the guys were academy guys like yourselves, half the guys, and then we brought in Americans like Doug Herring, Alif Bland.
Alif. Matthias came too.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Roy, Jordan, Greg was obviously already there, but they had stuff that they were doing during the day. And Tamas and I are just there playing for free.
Yeah. Because I think like at the time there was like the transitional period where, Bristol Sport have come on board, but there needs to be a couple of bedding in years where it's like, how do we get this program from a semi-professional program to where it is today, for example? And you look at where it is today.
I think there was like some partnership with schools and then some coaching that other guys were doing to kind of make it all work together.
That's right.
Because that was when Simon Stewart came down. So that was pretty cool to have him as a part 2, just like as an extra British guy to kind of add to the core.
Yeah.
But you would have taken no money and getting that experience over getting paid a little bit, wouldn't you, for sure, at that time?
I mean, at that time, I didn't know no better, so I wouldn't change it for the world.
But if you look at like where the program is now compared to where it was back then, I mean, you look at it now, everyone in the roster is full-time with the club. Like, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it?
It's taken step after step after step. I mean, I noticed it more when I came back last year, really. Seeing how the team car had changed. Andrea showed me the apartments the guys are living in, the treatment, the nutrition, the restaurants, the breakfast food at the hotel, like everything has turned to a fully professional club, which you would expect anywhere in the world, like for basketball high level, to be at.
Yeah, and it's amazing, like that journey and like actually telling these stories of how, because you don't see many clubs make that transition into top flight from being a semi-professional team in Division 1. Like, often when you see BBL teams come into the league, it's like an owner's come on board and they're going to start a new team from scratch with no community, no already existing fan base. But to actually take on an existing program and slowly throughout a 10-year period turn that from a semi-professional team into a pro team is incredible. And I love hearing about these stories of what it was like for you back then, for example, when you first were playing for the Flyers in the BBL compared to where it is now. Because am I right in thinking, like, I think I remember the first game in BBL and it was like Glasgow away or something. Am I right in thinking you guys travelled in minibuses to that game?
Oh, did we? No, I don't think we minibused it all the way to Glasgow away. I think we flew, but I remember we flew the same day, played the game, and flew back.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I think we arrived like maybe 2 hours before tip-off.
Yeah.
Stopped off for Pizza Hut as a team. And then went on to play the game.
High nutrition.
Then won and just came back. Oh, great nutrition. But I remember, I think we won our first 2 games in the BBL. We started off 2-0. So I just remember we just thought, oh, yeah, we're going to win this easy. Or at least win games, because it was a lot more competitive back then because there was 13 teams.
That's right.
So, so it was 5 teams that don't make the playoffs. So our goal was just to compete. And I don't want to get too ahead because we'll probably talk about it, but we did some good things.
Yeah, well, we certainly did compete, I can tell you that. And we talk about some of these players that you were playing alongside with, like your Doug Herrings, and not many people remember Doug Herring too well because he only played about 7 or 8 games and then he tore his meniscus and his season came to an end. But in my opinion, I felt like he was one of the best point guards that Flyers have ever had. He was incredible, wasn't he?
He was special. He was special, and I remember he got us. I think it was to the cup semi-final against Worcester.
Yeah, that's right.
Like we won some tough games. We got there. It was like, oh, I'm seeing this American that's scoring in different ways, helping us. It was just really as far as he took us, and it's weird also because, like I say, with the Thai thing in my first year, I wasn't really playing that much that first BBL year, and then once Doug got hurt, we kind of needed to bridge the gap before another American guard can come in, which ended up being Bree. So I think we went 3 games with fresh hurt before Bree coming in, and that just kind of allowed me to play a lot more. And I think I had 3 great games back to back to back where I got my chance. Andreas kind of just threw me in and just let me go. And when Bree arrived now, we was like a combo partnership because he couldn't almost not play me no more. I was the first guy off the bench. It was kind of, we need a spark, we need a change. It was like, just get D'Lo in and just let him do his thing.
Yeah, it was a very hybrid team because I think Roy was the pure point guard on that team. I think yourself and Bree, they were both combos, right? And it was...
Yeah, we were just trying to score.
Yeah, it was. Literally.
We were trying to get buckets.
I've got here in my notes, you made 36 appearances in the league, so obviously add on the extra games that you would have played in the trophy and the playoffs, etc. 36 games, 8.6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists a game, and this is when you're like 17, 18 years old. I mean, you do not, like, bar maybe Cam Hildreth in recent years, I can't remember a player that was getting that many minutes at your age at the time and actually making an impact and being competitive on the court, right?
I mean, I just wanted to go at everyone, really. Like, I wanted to prove that I was the next guard, and I had a platform. We had a style of play that kind of suited me. We played very fast, very up-tempo transition. Andreas gave me free reins to push the ball and understand that I'm going to make some mistakes. There might be some turnovers, but there'll be some highlight plays as well, and I can make some good things happen. And just get the crowd involved. He was really big on that.
Yeah.
Because if you were watching games, you'll hear Andreas shouting and screaming, trying to get us involved and get the crowd involved.
I love hearing this story because it could have been so easy for you to be told at 16, nah, just like play your age or maybe play up to 18s or whatever and see what happens. But you were like, no, I'm actually going to go do something. And this probably gave you the biggest opportunity and chance that you would have got, unless if you didn't do this, who knows where you would have been.
It wouldn't have, that my story wouldn't have been this way. I think it allowed me to grow because I think the biggest thing is getting out your comfort zone and your environment. I need to get out of London. And it allowed me to just kind of concentrate on basketball and what it is that I wanted to achieve. There was no distractions. I mean, I made friends once I got there, but I didn't know no one in Bristol really till I got there. And I mean, to the point now where I still tell stories about my times in Bristol. Roy's still one of my closest friends 12 years later. I'm still super close with Andreas. I mean, he came to my senior night when I was in college in America. He altered the BBL schedule so he could be free that week, so he could come just to be there for my last home game. Like, it's more than just that for me because it allowed me to grow, and it was a big part of my life.
Yeah. Of course, you mentioned some of the highlight plays from that first season as well. I was going to ask you, I've got it in my notes. You look back on that debut season in the BBL at the time. What was your favourite moment, would you say? If you were to pick one moment from that season, what was your favourite moment from that first year in a BBL?
It's tough because it's like split. I think my game against Plymouth away, that was a big one for me because I remember I ended up getting a scholarship offer afterwards. So I had a good game. We won. I think I made like BBL Team of the Week at 18. And we just played against like 2 former GV men's guys. So I ended up getting a scholarship offer afterwards based on the footage. And then probably my favorite play would be the Sterling Davis dunk when everyone kind of went crazy.
Yeah.
That was pretty wicked.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that was exactly in my notes. And we've got a clip of this play, actually, we can get up on screen, producer Dan. This is you as an 18-year-old player for Bristol Flyers dunking on Sterling Davis. Talk us through this play.
The young legs. So a couple games earlier, I tried to go up for a dunk on someone and I missed it. And then like everyone was making fun of me, like, if you're gonna like try and dunk it, you need to make it next time. And I remember I just like had the opportunity, Bree threw it ahead to me. I said I'm gonna dunk this, and I think I got like a little boost, and then went one hand, and I just didn't know how to react. Like I kind of was screaming at the cheerleaders. Look, that's crazy because that's Corey Samuels.
Yeah. I was gonna
Wow.
say, because that like, we always say like how players in the academy will come and watch games and look up to players, and this is Corey Samuels, a young Corey Samuels watching you as a player, you inspiring him to now do exactly what he's doing for the first team and inspiring the next generation of players coming through the academy. It's crazy like how that all comes full circle, right?
Yeah, now I'm watching Corey play for the Flyers, and like you said, some other kids from Bristol are watching him night in, night out, and saying, I want to be like him. I want to come up the ranks and the systems. And I mean, I feel like everybody's dream is to one day play professionally at home. I mean, Corey being from Bristol, born and bred, that must be so cool for him.
That dunk is wild because he makes the dumbest decision. He didn't like jump to challenge you, or he didn't run out the way. He just goes, do it," and then you just absolutely yammed it on him, and it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that was some good young legs. I was 18 years old right there. It's funny because Andreas doesn't even know how to react. He's just kind of lost, like looking around, like what's going on. I think he's telling us to get back on defense, but I had a free throw, so
It was great. It was. I remember that play so well, and I just remember thinking like, this player is special. Like he's going to go on and do really good things, and you certainly did that. I mean, you went on to Bradley, and then the rest is history. And you've had like a really successful pro career, which is still continuing now. The game's taken you all over the world, and because of an opportunity that the club and Bristol Flyers and the SGS Basketball Academy in particular has offered you, it's incredible to see. And you look at that season as a whole. We actually finished 8th in the season out of like 13 teams. We made the playoffs
made
in
the
our
playoffs
debut
in the
season.
first year.
Yeah, it was our very first year in the BBL. Made the playoffs.
Who was first? Who did you have to play against?
Newcastle?
Yeah, tough.
That's when they had Charles Smith and Darius was still there, and Fab was a player coach, and yeah, it wasn't a good matchup for us.
But I think that moment of just making the playoffs in our debut season. I mean, you look at like you look at previous teams that had entered the BBL. There was like a team called Birmingham Knights at the time who went winless the whole season and just dropped out the following season before we joined. And then I think we entered with Leeds Force at the same time, and Leeds didn't do amazingly well. They didn't win. I don't think they won many games, if any games at all, that season. And then you look at us, and we go and make the playoffs, and winning those first 2 games back to back in the first weekend sort of set the tone for what was a really successful season. And yeah, that was a huge achievement, right?
So if you kind of look at it too, that started it off, and every season, gradually the team started finishing higher and higher and higher until, I mean, a couple of years ago when they had, I think it was the Jelani year when they finished third, but every year Bristol was just creeping up. 8th one year, 7th, then a couple 5th, maybe then a 4th. It was all about growth, and it's weird because I feel like everyone always sleeps on us as Bristol because it's okay. We play at SGS. It's the same coach. It's the same team. You kind of know year in year out what you're gonna get from Bristol, but I think that everybody being together, like understanding how you play, there's not much changeover with the roster. It kind of just makes us like a dark night every year to kind of make some noise.
Yeah, it's such a great story. I love like the whole pathway and players moving on, having great opportunities, and inspiring the next generation, and it just keeps continuing. And now you look at players like Corey Hill, for example. I know he hasn't played with the first team yet, but he's training with the first team right now. He's only 16 years old. Oh, 17, just turned 17, beg your pardon. He's just 17 years old, absolutely killing it for the Flyers in NBL Div 2. He had like 29 points against BBU the other week. So, and that's the next generation now. And just seeing every year like new players coming in and following in the footsteps that players like yourself have gone on. It's such a special story, isn't it?
But that's how it should be. And unfortunately, it's not like that everywhere. I mean, Bristol is one of the few places where they kind of stick to the core. And again, it's the opportunity. Nothing is given to any of these players. It's not like, oh, you come here, you're going to have it. They work, they're at practice, they're building their way, they're gaining the trust, and then they're going from there and doing what they can.
I still love that you say us about Bristol as well. I like that, man.
I was a big part of it, so it's always something that I will hold dear to me, and it was the first quote unquote professional club I was involved with. So I wasn't a professional, but I was around the team. I was a big part of it. It's some of my most fun basketball memories because there was no pressure. I was just playing, hanging out with friends, and it was also new. I mean, I got stories that I could tell from that year that I mean I can't now, but it was just fun.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. I reckon. No, just talk us through, Dwayne. Obviously, that your last year then with Flyers and SGS, and sort of how was the club then helping you prepare for that next step, the academy and the Flyers first team, in terms of like reaching out to Bradley and getting you that scholarship offer. Like, talk us through the offers you were getting and how Flyers assisted with that.
I mean, Andreas and I had a great relationship. So every step of the way, it was kind of a partnership between SGS, like the college, and because he's everything in the Flyers. I mean, at the time, GM, president, coach. I didn't really have to go through many people. He was able to speak with everyone at SGS to help with my transcripts and get everything on board for that. I mean, you was a big part of it too. I mean, you made my highlight tape and was helping get the the footage and the full game stuff together. And Andreas knew some agents at the time. He'd spoke to them because they were wondering if I wanted to go to pro or go to college. So they'd spoken to some coaches in America. Had a few offers and visits scheduled. And ultimately, it came to a point in time when I was going to have to miss some games and miss class. So Andreas just moved the schedule to allow me to be able to go on a visit to Bradley. I was supposed to visit Fairfield and Miami, Ohio too. But they paid for my mum and I to go out. I had a wonderful visit. It was a brand new coaching staff, so I knew that I was gonna have some big minutes as a freshman because they saw a lot in me, and I just wanted to play. It was again almost like when I went to Bristol. I wanted to go somewhere where I'd have a chance and know that I'll be relied on and trusted upon, and I got to be a starter from day one as a freshman. So I think it was a great decision we got there.
Yeah, and it's quite full circle, isn't it? How, because it's Brian Wardle at the time, right, who was the head coach of Bradley. He actually was also the head coach of Bree Perrine, who was at Green Bay at the time, right?
At Green
Am I right
Bay.
in saying that?
And Ramon Fletcher.
Oh, wow.
So when I actually committed, our first game back was against Newcastle, and as Ramon is like getting ready to press me full court, he's like, "Yo, like congratulations for going to Bradley. Like I played for Wardle. Like he's gonna love you. You're gonna love it there."
Wow. That's amazing. That's such a great story. Like, you never know about these things unless we get them on the podcast like that. That's
And did you smoke Ramon or not?
Ramon, that was a tough matchup. He couldn't stop me going right, but I couldn't stop him going left, so it was pretty tough.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have stopped Ramon Fletcher going left, mate. I don't think you're on your own there.
That guy. Crazy.
Dwayne, obviously we can't not have you on the podcast without talking about like the 20th anniversary season, the club's 20-year journey as a whole. I know you were a small part of the 20 years that the Flyers have been going on for, but it's such an incredible achievement, isn't it, for Coach Kapoulas and Nick Burns as well, who's been there from the very start. A huge achievement now to be celebrating 20 years and to see how far the club has come over the years.
It's credit to them, really. I mean, I've been a fan of the club in essence because once I left, I've still been following. So I feel like I've been a fan for 12 years, knowing that Andres has been there for so long at the helm, kind of dealing with everything that he's probably had to deal with all this time. It's an incredible achievement. I hope that he's there for longer. We'll see how many more years the journey will go, but the club just continues to get better and better and better. And it even seems like there's bigger things on the horizon. And then credit to Nick. I mean, he's one of the funniest guys, but he's also that keeps the balance with Andreas. So it kind of like goes unnoticed. But I mean, he got the best job in basketball being his assistant. So he's gonna be there for as long as he needs to.
Yeah, and to be at a point now where they're playing European competition in the EMBL. Obviously, we're recording this podcast the day after they just picked up their first EMBL win of the season out in Czechia. Did you ever think back then when you were playing for Flyers that the club today would be where it is now and playing on that European stage?
No clue at all. I didn't even really know much about European competitions back then. I mean, all I knew was really British Basketball League, going to America, NCAA, and the NBA. I didn't really know much about what else was going on in the world. It wasn't really until I started getting a little bit older, was starting to be professional, and then some of my friends and the other like GB players that I looked up to, they started going to different places and playing different leagues, and I was like, there's more to basketball than what I just know.
And like we say, I mean, the club has had such a rich tradition of bringing academy players through and playing in the and getting opportunities in the first team. If you were to give one piece of advice to anyone who's thinking about coming to SGS College as a young player, studying in the basketball academy and hoping to get an opportunity with the Flyers first team, what would that bit of advice be?
you'll have a chance. I think I'm a big believer in you get out what you put in. So if you're somebody that works hard, somebody that's going to put in the work, put in the effort, and try, Bristol is a place where you'll get a chance to showcase what it is that you want to do. It won't be easy, but you'll have a chance, and I think it's more than what I can say about many other places across the country.
That's amazing. Dwayne, because this has been a great chat and we could literally talk forever about this sort of stuff, but I kind of want to slowly start to wrap up this chat now. Just talk us through like what's next for you. Of course, at the moment you're still recovering from your injury, finish your season out abroad, and but where do you see basketball taking you over the next few years?
Continue to play high level basketball. Want to continue, well, at least for now, because I'm playing in Iceland, win a championship this season. I think I'll have an opportunity to do that with the team that I have. And then really it's just continuing to play at the highest level possible. Recover. Then next summer, see what's happening with GB for the 5-on-5s as well as the 3-on-3. And then kind of take it from there.
Yeah. I know Flyers fans will probably hate me for not asking you this question because obviously last year we spoke about it. You spent some time with the Flyers program back again. You're back for the first time in quite a few years. Obviously, you started your pro career with the Bristol Flyers. Would you ever consider maybe finishing your career with the Bristol Flyers? Could that ever be a possibility, do you feel?
Andreas and I have spoken about this before. Never really seriously, but more so like as a joke, how cool it would be. And I think it's something that I would never rule out. I mean, I think it would be a cool story, like a full circle moment if maybe one day I ended my career where I started. Especially if it would be with Andreas, that would be cool. I always did say I wanted to come back to Bristol one day to help us win a championship. I think that would be pretty wicked. But we'll see. I will never say never. It just kind of depends what happens in the next couple of years, and we'll see. I know the arena's on the verge of starting to get built, so we can kind of see where it goes from there.
I was going to say, you don't play in front of 800 anymore, mate. It's 5,000 minimum, isn't it?
I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it. Well, hopefully the stars can align and hopefully the budget can go up for us and then we can allow you to come back to the club. I'd love to see it, mate. It'd be great. And maybe I'll still even be here. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Bristol Sport will want to make a nice little special. We can go win, so let's make it happen.
Yeah, I'd love to bring the band back together. Get yourself, get Dean Williams back. You know, but guys that have started their pro careers. See what Tamas is doing. Reach out to the Apple Store and get him to come out of retirement if you fancy it.
100%.
Yeah,
you can't teach hype, so we need him.
Yeah, we do need him. I know he's a listener of the podcast. He told me when I spoiled him in the Apple Store. So Tamas, if you're listening, I'm going to be giving you a call, mate. Well, Dilo, thank you so much for your time, man. We really appreciate you coming on the podcast, talking to us about your journey, reminiscing on your time with the club, and talking about your time in Bristol and the Flyers. And it's so great to see that the club still holds a very special place in your heart. But thank you so much for your time, Dilo. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you at the game soon.
Thank you for having me.
This is the Bristol Flyers podcast.
Well, that was a great chat, wasn't it, Sam?
Oh, what a lovely man. Like, he has been around for so long. We've seen him pop in and out over the seasons, and it's so good to see his career flourishing as we thought it would, Jolly.
It was good for us to also bridge that gap between NBL and BBL era, I thought, because we've had the first part, we've had the second part, now this is the middle part, and then as we do more of these 20th anniversary episodes, we can slowly bridge little gaps that we've made in between now. So I feel like we've got a good foundation for future 20th anniversary episodes. Dan, what did you reckon of that chat?
I thought it was great. I do remember, actually, when you said before, do you remember D-Lo? I didn't. And then it all started to come back because I got into basketball a similar sort of time when you started at the Flyers, obviously, Joel. So, yeah, it was all coming back to me, to quote Celine Dion.
Yeah, well, there we go. It's all coming back to me.
One thing about Dan, I should all let you know, is regularly he quotes Celine Dion.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, check that in there.
Yeah, that's great, mate. It's great.
See if you can get any more song titles in without us noticing, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's great. All right, well, on that note, it's time for us to get to this week's news. And boy, do we have a lot to catch up on. We've got 2 games to talk through. But first, I think it's good for us to acknowledge the news that came out over the international break. And that is the player transaction news. Obviously, Trey Tennyson is now no longer with us. And Elaine Lewis was announced as our new point guard who played his debut in that win over Surrey 89ers. Sam, what did you think of after the news after the news came out about Trey, because I think a lot of people were quite surprised by that, right?
Well, do you know what? And as much as I look like I'm close to the action with the Bristol Flyers, and I know you're much closer than me, like, you know, I didn't know it was all happening all the time, and we don't know everything. And so, obviously, it's like, well, what's going on here? But there's always a reason, isn't there? And to be fair, Lane's been in now 2 games, 2 wins. So what can you say?
I think the fit just wasn't quite. Basketball's a business, and it's a win and loss business, and these things happen. And I think you look at the makeup of our team compared to makeup of previous teams, and we sacrificed a lot on the defensive end for a very offensive-minded team, which is great on paper. I think a lot of our games so far this season were won by outscoring our opponents rather than stopping our opponents from scoring. And if you look at the DNA of Bristol Basketball, Flyers Basketball, over the last, you can go back the last 10 years in top flight history, we've always been a defensive team. Coach Kapoulas has always been a defensive team. And the big buck players, if you want to call them that, are the two-way players that can do both. So always you're going to sacrifice a bit of scoring for more defense, or a bit of defense for more scoring, and vice versa. And I feel like that fit was a more offensive fit. And then obviously now we brought in Elaine Lewis, so I can completely understand. In Coach K we trust, and that has certainly paid off so far with the 2 wins that we've seen since making the change. But that was some of the biggest news that came out of Flyers during the international break, right?
There you go. And we've had a chance to chat to Elaine. He seems like a great guy. And yeah, like we said, we've had 2 wins. I mean, that obviously is helped by Keedy Johnson coming back and being an absolute stallion as always. But yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, we will get Elaine Lewis on the podcast at some point later in the season. He actually was sat on the bench watching the game against Manchester Basketball, and I was hoping, I was there thinking, okay, Elaine Lewis is in. He's not signed yet, but people are going to ask questions, and luckily, no one asked any questions.
It's quite funny. It's bizarre.
I was like, great, just let him sit on the bench and no one knows who he is. So
he also was coaching one of the teams during the sponsors basketball tournament, Joel.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and no questions were asked there either. Who is this person coaching my basketball team? No, not one of the players.
Yeah, so it was funny, but yeah.
French Canadian, of course, a little bit like Celine Dion. So
is that true?
Yeah, she's French Canadian. Yeah,
great stuff.
Dan, that wasn't as subtle as I was hoping, but do you know what? Great fact. Appreciate it.
Well, look, I was going to say about Alain being all by himself, but I didn't want to chuck it in there just that early, just yet.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, nice, mate. Other news that happened through the international break was that our new Reebok uniforms, I mentioned it on last week's show, they finally arrived, and we got to do kit launch shoots. We got to do media day properly. It was a busy international break for the media team.
We didn't do a pod last week because life was hectic in the world of Bristol Flyers, wasn't it, Jolie? So we decided to move it on to this week instead.
Yeah, there was a lot happening at our end, obviously with the news of Trey and Elaine, and then kit launch shoot happening, and then media day officially happening. There wasn't time for us to get in the studio. So the kits are out now, and you can pre-order them right now over at bristolflyers.co.uk.
What are you, Jolie? You a bit of the pink or you a bit of the blue?
Well, let's get it up on screen, producer Dan. There it is. There are the home and away uniforms. The home is navy blue for the podcast listener with pinstripes. It's got WOB Competitions on the front, our principal partner. And the home uniform is very smart. I like the return of pinstripes. What do you think?
I absolutely love them both. I think pink's I think the writing of the pink's so nice, but I would probably wear the blue, so that would be my choice. Danny boy?
I like both, home and away, and whether we're near, far, wherever we are, I think you could wear either, really. So
no, I'd argue when we're near blue,
you'd want home.
Far, pink.
You'd want pink.
Wherever we are. Yeah, there you go.
Works well. We were pretty far away in Czechia yesterday, and we wore blue, so
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. Wherever you are, you can wear both. And you can buy both right now if you want over at bristolflyers.co.uk. Go to the online store and, go check it out. Please, please, please get your new jerseys right now. After the media day that we had last week, Sam, the last event that you hosted in your role at Bristol Sports was the Lansdowne Club and Flyers Community Fundraising Quiz.
Which was not actually, because it was great anyway, but a lot of fun, wasn't it, Jolie?
I had a great time. I joined late because I was packing up from media day, but you were hosting the quiz. It was a Kahoot quiz, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it raised £3,200 for the Flyers community programme.
They did this fun thing with keys and secret keys where you there's a box of all these prizes in. You could pay for a key and there were like 50 keys or whatever you could buy, and then everyone comes up at one point and tries the key to see if they won. And you know, in these things, like, you're like, oh, it'd be good if they're spread out. I swear all 3 prizes were won in the first sort of 10 keys.
So everyone just sat there after like, oh, the keys have been opened. My key is now pointless.
Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a shame. I wanted it to be like the 49th key would have been like, oh, the final winner, but no.
Yeah. Well, it was a great night overall, I thought. It was obviously the fundraising element of it. You did a Q&A with Coach Kapoulas, who spoke to the team after returning from the international break.
They don't normally let me do the serious Q&A, so I had a lot of fun doing that, Jolie.
Yeah, you just did the non-serious podcast instead. So Q&A. Mike English from the Bristol Sport Foundation came up to the front and also presented about what the money raised from the night will do for helping kids access basketball in Bristol. And then there was an interactive Kahoot quiz with many prizes on the line. So yeah, it was a great night overall. Really enjoyed it.
Owen McCormack came second or third in it?
Oh yeah, he couldn't win though.
He couldn't win, so he came up like, yeah, I've won, and it's like, yep, now go sit down and you can't win these VIP courtside seats.
Yeah. Well, congrats, Owen, but you don't win. Other news to get to: Bristol Sport is hosting a Christmas party at Ashton Gate exclusively for Flyers City and Bears under-12 season ticket holders and members on Sunday, December 15th from 2:30 till 5:30 p.m. Tickets are free. You can get them right now over at the Bristol Sport website. Each ticket gives you entry for one adult and one under-12 season ticket holder or member.
So if you're not under 12, think twice before heading down there.
Nice.
Yeah, good.
Oh, that's a Celine Dion reference.
Yeah.
I see. Exciting party activities, music lined up for your Ashton Gate Party Peeps. You ever seen Party Peeps?
No, I'm not.
They're down at Ashton Gate to do the kids' discos down there.
Do you know what? I have seen it. It'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be really, really good fun. Dancing and party with a fun-filled festive show, arts and craft station, snacks and drinks available to purchase, and the club shop will be open for some last-minute Christmas shopping.
Do you reckon they've got Panda Pops like when we were doing school discos?
Oh my God, I love Panda Pops.
Didn't they get banned because of the amount of E numbers in them?
I think so. Look how I turned out. I think also I love pick a mix at those discos as well.
Yeah, so
Incredible.
good. And knee slides.
Yeah, and knee slides and many ripped trousers as a result.
Do you know, it wasn't just the ripped ones. It was when you wore those ones that burn on the weird floor that then would get that waxy stuff on. That was what my mum hated, those things.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, a bit too much detail. Dan, did you ever go to a school disco? Can't imagine
them.
you dancing.
The place used to go mad as soon as you heard, this is something new. Casper Slide Party. Oh,
Featuring the Platinum Band.
Oh, I'll tell
and
you
this time...
Tell you what other song is a great one as well from school kids disco. Oops,
Upside
upside your
your
head.
head.
That's it. Oops, upside your head. I don't know how the dance goes, but you used to like sit down in like a train and do that on the floor.
And finally, the Macarena.
Oh
Classic.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolute
yeah.
banger, absolute banger. So all of those will be, I'm sure, all of those will be around for the Christmas disco. Other news to get to. I've got to talk about Flyers community basketball holiday camps. The Bristol Flyers community basketball camps are back for the school winter holidays. They are open to children in school years 3 to 11 of all abilities. All the camps help you develop your skills in a fun and safe environment during the holidays and are coached by our talented team of foundation coaches at the Bristol Flyers community. Spaces available at both our camp locations at Cottam School and St Bernadette Catholic Secondary School. Head to bristolflyers.co.uk right now to book your space. Also, Term 3 Bristol Flyers community basketball hubs are now live. The hubs are open to boys and girls with no basketball experience needed. Again, go to the Bristol Flyers website right now for all the details. There's one more plug I've got to do, and that is for Bristol Sport Foundation Corporate Basketball. If you work for a company and you've got ballers in the office, why don't you get a team together and enter into the Bristol Sport Foundation Corporate Basketball Tournament? Entry to the tournament is £750 per team, with all funds directly helping more children from low-income families to access fully funded fun and inclusive basketball sessions for our community program Project Takeoff. There's only 8 team spots available, so make sure you go and sign up now over at bristolflyers.co.uk. I've got more news to get to, and that is because there were 2 games that happened whilst we were since we've done our last podcast episode. We should probably talk about them, Sam.
Keedy flipping Johnson is all I'm going to say about these 2 games, Jolie. First one, Surrey 89ers.
Do you want me to lead on it?
Yeah, you
The
lead
first
on
game
it.
was Surrey 89ers. Bristol Flyers coming out on top 88 points to 84 after trailing by as many as 12 points in the first half. This game was crazy. I mean, Keedy, you mentioned Keedy, back from injury, back with a bang. He really showed what we were missing out there. He had 20 first half points.
I know, and the commentators would not let us not stop hearing about it. He was unreal, Jolie.
Finished with a Flyers career high 32 points, 12 for 16 shooting from the field. 75% to go along with his 7 rebounds as well. Like, honestly, a man on a mission to single-handedly carry us over the line.
There was this one particular bucket, and I actually messaged him after the... do you know the one I'm on about? The and one later
Yep.
on in the game.
We put it out on socials as the play of the game, 100%.
But I asked him how did he score it, and he has no idea. And I've watched it back about 10 times, and I cannot work out how in that position he managed to get it in.
I think when you go off to have 20 first half points, you know it's going to be a special night, and then obviously things just start clicking for you, and it all just continues from there. But we almost threw it away in the fourth quarter. I saw that, and we've talked about this before, but obviously Keedy slipped on the lovely non-slippery surface at Surrey Sports Park and turned the ball over for Mervyn James to potentially get the game tying, or might have been a go-ahead too. Owen McCormack comes down the way and steps in for a charge.
Unreal stand by Owen. He got hit pretty hard, didn't he?
It does mean that the Flyers went on to win by 4 points for their second straight win in SLB, obviously adding on to that win over Manchester Basketball before the international break.
Putting us at 2-2 in the league.
Yep, that is correct. Keedy Johnson, 32.7 rebounds on 75% shooting from the field. Evan Walsh, 13 points from the starting 5. Raf Thomas Edwards with 10 points, and he's been great recently, hasn't he?
I think, didn't Raf go on an 8-0, not 8-0, but he got the first 8 points for the Bristol Flyers of the game?
Most of that was in the first half alone. He really carried us through those early stages of the game.
Yeah.
And then Keedy just consistent throughout, so that was really, really good. And then we get on to the next game, Sam, which was last night's game. We're recording this podcast on Wednesday.
You can't say last night's game, Joel.
Oh, mate, honestly, the early tip-off completely threw me off for this game. We went live on Flyers TV from 11:15 in the morning for an 11:30 a.m. tip-off, which was 12:30 a.m. local out in Czechia.
Which is wild, but why was it so early? What do you reckon?
I'll tell you why. It's because Bruno actually reached out to us and said that they were doing some kind of schools game for elementary school kids to get tickets to watch the game, and obviously you've got to do it during school hours.
Yeah.
So they asked us if they got 900 kids in there, basically.
Amazing.
They asked us if we could be happy to play the game at 12:30 local, their time. And Mike said, yeah, we can do it. So, that's why the game was at 11:30. But it meant that everyone got to enjoy a Flyers basketball game that they could pop on in the office secretly and watch it while they're working. Did you watch the full game, right?
I watched most of it, but then I went and got a chiropractor to sort me out, so I missed some of the second half.
Sam's poor back. Basically, in the fourth quarter, about 3 minutes to go, we're sat there, Gareth and I just sat right over there in that corner of the room, commentating on the game, and the feed freezes. Eventually, the feed does come back with around, a minute to go or something like that?
I don't even know if it was as long as that, really. It was about a minute of the game.
In
that we
regular
lost.
time, or not, or in overtime?
In regular time.
Oh, right.
So it was getting towards crunch time. I thought the game was going to end on us. But luckily, it came back to life, and we were able to commentate the rest of the game and into overtime. And double overtime, by the way. What an incredible game it was.
There were some weird plays at the end of each of those overtimes, weren't there? So there was one, they just threw the ball away to us, didn't they?
At the end of regulation
At
to
the end-
force OT.
Exactly.
That was incredible. It was Kendall Lewis. I think it was Keedy that got the steal and gave it to Kendall Lewis for a two-handed dunk to force overtime. Bear in mind, we were trailing by as many as 9 points or 8 points, I think, throughout the game. We came back twice. And then, we get that steal on a baseline out of bounds and just go coast to coast and force the extra period. Fair play to them. They hit some massive shots. Richard Balint with some huge threes to keep them in it. Svoboda forced the second overtime period with that sort of lefty layup off the glass. And the second period of overtime was a lot higher scoring. Flyers made their biggest lead of the game at that point at 6, and that was the moment where we felt like, this game is wrapped up. But we talk about the last few exchanges. They were like threes being exchanged all over the place in that last possession, and then they got the steal, and I thought they got a chance to tie it again and go to triple overtime, and they missed it, and we managed to hold out for the win there. Let's go through the top scorers of this game then. Keedy Johnson, continuing where he left off, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. All 5 starters in double figures in this game, by the way. Kendall Lewis with 16, Damon Robinson with 19, Raf Thomas Edwards with 11, 7, and Jared Sherfield with 10, including a basket to start the fourth quarter where he hung on the rim and got a technical foul. Thoughts?
Me and Tilly shared a look.
Yeah.
On that one. Tilly wasn't sure. Gareth Till on co-commentary for the game yesterday. He wasn't sure about that call.
And bless Gareth Till as well, because he had to go pick up his kids from school and they went to double overtime. And I was like, Gareth, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Gareth. And we all had to do the post-game reaction in here in the studio. And I'm like, go, 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 as soon as we went off air. Also, funny moment that happened at the end of the broadcast. Gareth Till's microphone, a little lapel mic, falls off. Do you remember that?
The last question.
Just pop, and I just try not to stop laughing and just wrap up the show.
Honestly, Sam, it was that.
Literally like that. Sam is miming right now into his microphone. So that win means that it's our first EMBL win of the season, first EMBL win of the season. Which means we are 1-4 in the EMBL, and that means we have to win pretty much out to have any chance of qualifying out of the group. It's still possible. I have faith in EMBL. What do you reckon?
It's out of our hands. So if we have to win, but then there are some other results that have to go our way. So we will have to see. But I also have faith in...
We're so dumb. And that's it for this week's news.
This is the Bristol Flyers podcast.
Sam, great interview. Great chat with D'Lo. And how's your back holding up?
Not good.
You're a bit sore, are you, mate?
I need some paracetamol so bad. If you've got any, get me some.
Okay, well, Sam is going to go get some paracetamol. I'm going to wrap up this week's episode of the Bristol Flyers podcast. So, producer Dan, thank you for pushing the buttons as always. Sam, thank you for joining us on the Flyers podcast. Next week, I think we're going to get Ibuka Ekwe in the studio, and we're going to talk about Essex Rebels.
Love that.
So do make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a rating and review on your usual podcast provider. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Flyers podcast, powered by Matchday Live. We'll see you next week.